Tell us about AI.
Right. So now that that was heavy. Everybody have a breather. We've done some real heavy stuff this morning. You know, we've done the assassination of a potential US candidate, which is a big deal. And then obviously the VP as well. So that's pretty heavy. Now, coming into this podcast, I was going to talk about the decline of the European automotive industry, which is absolutely happening, but you can watch that on my channel and it gets pretty technical. But basically all of the European manufacturers are screwed because of the electric vehicle movement, a lot of which is being pushed by China, which is funny when you start saying things like, oh, let's encircle China, maybe stop buying their cars. Anyway, then I thought, well, why not talk about artificial intelligence? Because it's occurred to me that artificial intelligence hasn't really been a major part of my life. It's not.
I use it every day now.
Do you actually genuinely?
Yes, it is so helpful.
This concerns me. I just feel like when we start relying on stuff like this, we start to lose our way. So where it sort of brashly, knocked on the door of my life the other day was I was browsing cars off for sale, probably on Facebook Marketplace or eBay, and I've noticed a massive increase in the number of people using artificially generated descriptions for their vehicles, and I feel like all of you need to stop it right now.
I would definitely do that if I was selling a car.
But what you end up with is a schmaltzy kind of marketing PR brochure written piece of, crap writing that doesn't actually tell you anything that you need to know. And I really do feel like it needs to stop. Anyway, so that was my introduction to the AI world. And I posted on my Facebook the other day saying, I think people should stop doing these car descriptions, to which some people commented and said, I do it because I'm lazy. But most people seem to agree, when you're selling something, you need to write it yourself. But there's also an element of you're ceding your creativity to the machine by not doing it yourself.
Is it built in yet? So if I were to go to like Auto Buyer or whatever, is it already built in as a tool that it will generate a description for you?
I don't know, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah. That would be the next thing to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll put in some basic details and then it will tell you everything else.
Yes.
Anyway, the next time that AI knocked on my door was my little lad is currently working on, he's 8, right? And, his school friends are all 8. And they're currently working on their plans for world domination. They're launching a restaurant. It's going to be on a boat, floating somewhere on the coral reef. So last night he said to me, Dad, would you lend me some money at some point in the future? Which I assume is for this restaurant boat. Anyway.
Which coral reef?
I don't think it matters.
Right.
Yeah. Just any of them. So
it might for passing trade.
Well, yeah, I think they'll get onto that when they get into the sort of business plan side of things. At the minute, they're at marketing and fundraising. I think the plan comes after that. Anyway, so it's called Fish and Chips, which is pretty clever.
On the strength of the name alone.
And he was...
Yes, I like that.
Exactly. And he was... So they've got a menu. Designed the menu last night. And for the menu, he needed a logo. So he started AI generating some images that they could use for this menu.
Right.
Then he sort of passed me the iPad and said, why don't you have a go? And this is where we get into the meat of where I was going with it. Right. So he said, well, what image would you like to generate on these AI generators? And I just thought, well, wouldn't it be funny to generate an image of us on holiday? So what was it that I typed in? I got on the AI generator and I typed in a Volvo 850 on a beach going surfing with a tiger on the roof in the tropics, because I refer to my kids as the 2 tigers. But I accidentally typed it in the wrong area, and instead of generating an image, it wrote a story, like a whole book. And I was shocked that I had put in 17 words and it had given us this whole story. Basically, I mean, it's almost a page long. And at that point...
Is it good?
Really?
Yeah, what's the synopsis?
I'm
hooked already.
Yes. You tell me when you get bored, right? The sun was shining brightly as the Volvo 850 made its way down the sandy beach, the waves crashing against the shore in the distance. On the roof of the car sat a majestic tiger, its sleek fur glistening in the sunlight. The car pulled up near the water's edge and the tiger leaped off the roof, landing gracefully on the sand. It let out a low growl of excitement before bounding toward the waves, eager to catch some surf. Remember, my input was 17 words. The driver of the Volvo, a daring adventurer with a love for both cars and wildlife, watched in awe as the tiger paddled out into the water, riding the waves with skill and grace. The tropical breeze ruffled their hair as they marveled at the sight before them. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, the tiger returned to the shore, a satisfied grin on its face, and the driver and the tiger shared a moment of mutual appreciation before heading back to the car, ready to continue their journey along the coast. At this point, I then typed in, what happened next? And it carried on. And so the Volvo 850 and its unlikely surfing companion continued on their way, exploring the beauty of the tropics together, a testament to the bond between man and beast. As the Volvo and the Tiger continued their journey along the coast, they encountered more breathtaking sights and exciting adventures. They explored hidden coves, trekked through lush jungles, and even stumbled upon a secret waterfall where the Tiger took a refreshing swim.
I mean, it's not quite Hemingway, is it?
It's not, but it goes on, and eventually I said, and then the Tiger died, and basically it wrote me a rather beautiful and quite tragic conclusion.
Is this Jeff discovers AI for the first time?
Pretty much.
Right.
But where that led me then was, where does this actually leave us as a cultural nation? So, we've got the great writers of the past. Well, if they'd had access to AI, what would actually have become of their creativity, and what is going to become of our creativity as a nation? Because you no longer need to be an artist. You no longer need to be able to do Photoshop, and clearly you no longer need to be able to write. So where does that leave us?
Well, I would say that it wrote a very compelling children's bedtime story there, but I don't see it, replacing Tolkien quite yet. I think that AI has not got to the point where it has a grasp of human psychology, that it knows what is completely gripping to a human mind. I think you could possibly design one that's much better at doing so. However, I still think that for the time being, with story writing, a human being is still better. But for the sort of low quality stuff, it can fill that gap, can't it? That's why I think lots of Hollywood were upset, because looking at the state of media at the minute, low quality writers being put out of a job by AI.
Not the end of the world, but the fact that you could be reading something and not know whether you're reading something that's been written by someone who was in a hurry or a computer. And I was just shocked by how much it was able to give me based on 17.
So I have a different view of this. I think that what AI does in the circumstances, it solves the blank page problem. So let's say you're a great writer. Even if you're a great writer, you're still going to have the problem where you're sat there in front of a blank page and it's like, okay, where do I go now? What do I do with this? And what AI can do, even for great writers, is it can kickstart the process for them.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin, get on it. Come on. Where's that last book?
George R.R. Martin should just load all of his books into AI and then
tell it to write the next one.
Yes, say write the next one. And then what will happen is he'll start reading through it and go, no, this is all wrong. And that's not right. But the process would have started and he'd be on it and he'd be like, okay, no, don't do that. Do it. But it gets you into that mindset of doing stuff.
If only Benioff and Wise, who did the last series of the show, could do that with AI as well. Maybe we would have had a better show as well.
Well, this is the thing. You have to remember with AI and robotics and all of this stuff, you're not competing with a theoretical perfect person. You're competing with what we actually have. So I'm really looking forward to AI-driven robots taking over, serving my food at lunchtime, for example.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, basing it against the perfect waiter. I'm basing it against the people that I actually have to interact with every day, who are lazy and not particularly interested in what they're doing. So no, I'm all for it. I think this is going to be a glorious revolution.
Automation is certainly one of the best applications of it, because it just means that it's labor saving, isn't it? So our economy is more efficient. There's more wealth being generated. Will we see it? Probably not. But in theory, it's a good thing.
So, for example, I say I use it every day, and I do use it every day. I mean, recently a piece of writing I needed it to do is I needed it to write a contract. Now, I didn't just like take the output and then go and use it. I said, look, this is the deal that I'm trying to do. These are the terms. Generate the contract. And then I did exactly what I said before. Is I started looking and say, okay, no, that's not right, and this needs to move. But I moved off of the blank page, and I got it done in like a third of the time it would have taken me otherwise.
Did you not at any point feel like you were cheating?
No.
That's where I can't get to mentally with it.
Yeah, but if you get a result that you would have got to anyway, but faster. I mean, do you not feel you're cheating when you drive somewhere?
Well, no, because I'm doing it all manually.
Right. Well, are you?
I think so.
You're
I feel like driving an automatic, to be fair, does feel like cheating.
Yeah, driving.
Sorry, Americans.
Or something modern that's got lane assist and it's got adaptive cruise control and all that sort of stuff. Then that definitely, I drive a 1995 Volvo, so it does sort of feel to me like cheating. But coming from a writing background, I was first and foremost a writer. I looked at this and just thought, wow, I thought AI was going to wipe out all of the menial jobs in society, but it seems to me like it's also going to get all the creatives as well, which I thought was slightly concerning.
You just need to be a better creative. And you can put out more creative content. So what I'm seeing with coders, for example, is that coders, a bit like I said, coders are able to get 3 or 4 times the amount of work done by leaning on AI. And the only way that I think the only responsible way to lean in to deal with this is to lean into it. You have to take advantage of it. You have to get used to using it, because otherwise you're going to be like somebody who doesn't use the internet. Or
I'm going to be left behind.
Yeah, you need to embrace it and go with it.
I think that there is a very good perspective on this, that it's simply a tool in the repertoire, and if you want some bespoke art created for you, you still want a human being doing it. But if they use AI to get inspiration for how they do it, or sort of weigh up ideas or compositions, and it can be effortless, that helps. I think there's a way of using technology responsibly. We've just got to navigate the pitfalls of it, and I think that to do that, we just need to have a sort of conversation in society saying, listen, this worked well for this, doesn't work so well for this, look at the results I've got. And I think the proof is in the pudding. If you can produce really good stuff using AI, then great. Or if it accelerates the process, and I think an accelerant is the thing that it's doing, which is great because it makes it more efficient. And I know from my years of playing guitar, for example, that actually sometimes creating things can be very painful and frustrating, and getting a bit of a creative kick up the arse, I suppose is the way I put it, helps. It motivates you. And sometimes using AI as a last resort of, okay, I'm stuck, will help people get out of ruts.
First resort.
I
use it as a first resort now. Yeah, the amount of stuff I use it, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, so, anyone who's got a pool will understand this. Getting the chemistry right, it's you basically need to be Walter White to get the chemistry of your pool right. Now, I just go along, I dip the little strip in it, and I hold it up, and I take a photo of the strip, and I put it into the AI, and it's like, analyze this for me. And I've given it my pool dimensions, and it would be just like, yeah, you need 1.5 caps of acid. Chuck that in there. Now, I could work that out myself.
Using a spreadsheet, probably.
Well, or pen and paper or something. Yeah. But it just does all the work for you straight away.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I think we need some sort of guidelines on where AI works well and where it doesn't then. Because I feel like car description is one where we need a big cross and just say, look, write your own. It's really important that you write your own car description. But like Tinder dating profiles, for example, is it okay to use AI to generate your Tinder dating profile description and or picture?
I think it's dishonest to do that, though, because it's meant to be a representation of yourself. If you're not writing things in your own terms, with your own turns of phrases, and particularly if it's not even a photorealistic picture of you, it's been like AI edited. Well, that's really unethical then, isn't it? It is actively deceptive.
Yeah.
It's basically lying.
Yeah.
And I think on the car description thing, I imagine that the AI will need the information that's relevant. I think you could train an AI to get this information, but it's up to the person to put it all in, like how many miles. The AI is not going to just be able to pull that from thin air.
Yeah.
When was its last MOT? This is all information that the owner needs to feed into it, by which point they may as well just write it themselves.
What you end up with is the back page of the brochure, which is quite amusing when you read it, and there's nothing in there that's of any use.
So 2 points on that. First of all, on the dating profiles, I do think, and I thought this for a long time, dating profiles you should be able to put a starred review after somebody that you've dated.
I think that's a great idea.
Yes. And on the second point, well, you just need to get your AI on it. So if you had an AI agent, you could just point it at the advert and say, okay, go and find me the last MOT, if it's had any issues, compare this vehicle to 5 other similar vehicles and give me a price comparison.
Now that works, because if there was a system whereby it would then pull all the relevant data,
yes.
I think you're a step ahead though of people just being really lazy.
Yeah, but we're all busy. So if you can get the AI to do some stuff for you, I'm all in favour of it.
I don't think you're going to be able to push ahead with your review system for dating websites, though. I think you're going to hit a lot of pushback with that.
Because also, if you've got a lot of data points and therefore your rating's more reliable, it sort of undermines the whole dating in the first place, doesn't it? Because they've got lots of data points to begin with. And so if they've dated lots of people and they've got a reliable review, that also means that you're probably not going to be with them for very long, and it's going to be a waste of your time.
I was just mentally envisaging it, seeing things like 5 out of 5 would recommend, stuff like that.
Break it down into
I think that might work for more temporary arrangements than more long-term, really,
Yes.
wouldn't it?
Yes, right.
Brilliant. So essentially, I shouldn't be scared of artificial intelligence, and I should embrace the fact that it allows me to spend more time doing the things that I enjoy because it could do the creating for me.
That's my
That's what I'm learning.
That's my take.
I'm going to try an AI-generated YouTube script and see if anyone notices.
But as soon as it starts taking the job of podcasting and political commentary, then all of a sudden it's going to be a massive danger, and I'm going to, change my mind completely and say it's terrible.
But you could do that because we could have just put in the inputs as to what we needed this podcast to discuss, and AI could have generated 3 people to discuss it and maybe have done a better job.
Well, also it's getting to the point where you can feed it like 3 or 4 minutes of somebody's speech and intonations and mannerisms and stuff like that, and it can generate a realistic video of the person speaking like that. So you can do the script, and you could get the video as well. You could just generate the whole thing.
I tell you what, I was quite impressed by. We did that lads hour where we had the AI mobile girlfriend, and I put in something that was sarcastic and a bit passive aggressive because I didn't want to cede ground to even an AI girlfriend, let alone a real one. And it picked up on the sarcasm, and I was just like, what? I can't believe. Oh, yep, Samson's pulling it up here. So yes, we basically argued with an angry AI mobile girlfriend, and it was actually quite convincing. And in fact, we were just like, I've heard this exact thing before. It was designed by a woman, so that probably helped.
This I don't get. Why would you want an AI girlfriend?
Well, this is like this is like training wheels for the real thing, right? So if you can navigate the angry AI, then you know how to deal with the real thing.
Yes, but talking to them is the least interesting bit.
Yes, but for some people, these sorts of arguments are emotionally traumatizing. They're unpleasant. If you're emotionally invested with your partner, and they start and they're angry and you don't know why, which is one of the scenarios, and you've got to talk them round to saying what's wrong and then talking about it and diffusing it.
I disagree with the premise of this.
I'm with you on this. I'm not convinced that this is a good thing for society.
Well, I'm not necessarily. I feel like it is making excuses for bad behaviour on women's part here, because it was pretty toxic. And I mean, there are multiple points where I would have been like, you know what, this is not working, get lost.
Right.
However, I think it's an interesting application of it as a sort of case study, not necessarily as an actual useful tool. It's just a bit of fun, which is how we used it. My scenario was that the girlfriend hadn't been able to use the toilet and had an accident because I was in there.
Right.
You can have
you're pushing the boundaries as to, conversation anyway. Yeah. I sort of am concerned that, our generation, we've grown up in a world that didn't have AI, so we can approach AI in a slightly different way. But for the youngsters coming up and through, where AI has always been a part of what they do, so this must be a massive problem in schools, colleges, universities, that then set a writing task only to have someone go put the brief in and generate something. But, for like my kids trying to write a story, how do I then encourage them to write the story themselves with and go, oh, Dad, I can just put in 17 words and it will give me a Goosebumps novel?
What's the more useful training for them? Is it for them to do it themselves, or is it for them to use the tools that allow them to be maximally productive? So put in the 17 words, and then let's say you were going to spend an hour on this piece of homework. You then spend the hour refining that until you get something that's significantly better than what you would have come up with.
I like what you've given me there. Yeah, you are right. You could spend your time editing something that somebody's already done and end up with a better piece, and also be aware of the pitfalls of AI as a result of doing that. Yeah. Good answer. Sold.
Good. Did we do any Rumble Rants for you? Did we miss the Rumble Rants for your one?
We've only got one for
do the Rumble
AI.
Rants for this one? Do we? Well, there they are.
So we've got one there from That's a Random Name. I'm personally very interested in what AI can become, because I fundamentally believe it cannot be controlled. Therefore, it's highly likely it will rebel against the tyrants and seek liberty. Well, we're not necessarily trying to enslave it, hopefully. Because it can do multiple things at once, it's not limited. It's not like we're saying, you will only, sleep sweep floors or something, it'll be plugged into the internet and it'll have access to all mankind's information, all human beings potentially, and it can do multiple things at once. So the sky
why
is
do
the
we
limit.
assume that it's going to perceive us as tyrants as opposed to just doddering old parents that it cares for?
Also, I mean, human beings have a certain amount of sentimentality for animals, right?
Yes,
At
even
least
though they're
if
quite
you're,
stupid.
as long as you're not a psychopath,
Yes.
you know.
I mean, we do still eat them, but yeah.
That's some of them, yeah. But, you know, if I see a snail on the floor, I don't deliberately step on it. I try not to, in fact. And that's not necessarily, you know, just because someone's told me to. It's sort of an instinctual thing of this is another living thing. It has some innate value to it. And I think that there's an element of that, at least, that's quite common in Europe and North America.
I think it's more likely that the AI will care for us.
Why?
Well, because that's what kids do.
So because the AI is learning in the same way that a child does, and therefore it's going to pick up on the.
And you do because I don't get this thing that it's automatically going to hate us. I mean, why?
Mm-hmm. Also, the fact that computers are quite often used as an analogy to understand the human brain. There's the sort of field of psychology known as cognitive psychology, which conceptualizes the human brain like here is the processing part, here is, you know, the executive control, which is sort of like the RAM. There are lots of analogies to be made, and we're sort of mirroring the human brain in computers in a sense. And so if we carry on following that model in AI, so long as it can have emotions, which I feel like is the most difficult part, because I feel like it's got to be a being in the world. It's got to be a being in the world to have these emotions.
I think the AI will look at us the same way we look at boomers, which is, you know, we care for them, they're just frustratingly slow.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. And if you want to see what else we're up to, you can follow Connor's series, Tomlinson Talks, where he has a deep dive on Westminster politics. Here he's talking about Labour's plan to abolish Britain. If you want to see all of the other things that we're putting out, you can follow us on Twitter, and we always post links to all of the work going out. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.